So right now, our field of attachment and aversion, whoever we can include in the perspective of attachment and aversion, is enormous. You know, everything can become, or everybody can become, an object of attachment or aversion for us. Yeah, in terms of love and compassion, our perspective is very narrow. Only the people who are nice to me, when they're nice to me, okay, fit in that. What we want to do is the exact opposite, okay? Expand the field of our love and compassion to include everybody. And make the field of our attachment and aversion so narrow that it completely self-implodes and becomes non-existent. So it's very different than, we're doing radical reformatting here when we practice the Dharma. Yeah, it's very much radical reformatting. It's not like, I still have all my, I'm still, kind of, have all my opinions about people as usual, but I just am able to cover it up better, and that's called love and compassion. It's not that, okay? It's really a very different perspective on others and on ourselves. And I think actually when we practice the Dharma, we begin to respect and cherish ourselves in a proper way. Yeah, in a way that we've never done before. Because I think most of the time we, when attachment and hatred are running the show, and ignorance in there too, then we don't have so much respect for ourselves. When we really get in touch with our own spiritual aspiration and, that real determination to live a meaningful life, then we find there's a lot to respect within ourselves. Yeah, and that there's a lot to cherish within ourselves, and we should cherish that part of ourselves. Yeah, so instead of beating ourselves up, oh, I'm so lazy, I'm so bad, I can't do anything, woe is me, then let's look at the really quite wonderful part of ourselves and enhance it and respect it and nourish it. Yeah, and stop wasting our time beating up on ourselves. Yeah, agree? Disagree? Yeah, because all this, beating up on ourselves is it's a huge waste of time. Yeah, does it do anything useful? Does sitting there telling yourself you're a lousy person and incompetent do anything useful at all? Yeah. Well, you might say, well, it makes me humble. It gets rid of my pride. No, it doesn't make you humble. It increases the sense of I. Doesn't make you humble at all. Okay, because I think real humility is when we're beyond comparing and contrasting ourselves with other people. Yet when we put ourselves down, we're very much in this mode of comparing and contrasting. I think real humility is beyond that. It doesn't care about that kind of thing. Yeah? So what good is all this self-deprecation do? Yeah. So the antidote isn't to say I'm the most wonderful person, spectacular person on the planet. That's not the antidote to it. Okay? Because that's also not true. Yeah. It's to pull ourselves out of that whole framework altogether. Like I was saying yesterday, the middle way isn't you average inherent existence and non-existence and come up with the middle. So in the same way, the middle way between arrogance and self-deprecation, yeah, isn't, some kind of other sense of I that's making I a big deal. It's something completely separate from that. Pulling ourselves out of this I'm higher than, I'm lower than, I'm equal to mode of assessing things. Okay? And so we want to really nourish that part of our seeds, part of our mind. Thich Nhat Hanh speaks about watering the seeds of goodness. Maybe I like food, so I talk about nourishing. But either way you talk about it, it's really about doing that, and doing it consciously. Knowing that we have some goodness, knowing that we have a lot of potential, and really wanting to use it. Yeah? And then, when we respect ourselves and care about ourselves, then we look around and we become much better able to assess situations and make wise decisions. Yeah, because when we respect and care about ourselves, we want to put ourselves in a good environment. Yeah, when we just want to go and have fun, when we want to compete with people about who's the coolest, when we want to create all sorts of, far out identities for us, for ourselves that we can latch onto, we don't necessarily put ourselves in good environments, do we? Yeah. We go hang out, I want to have a good time. So who do we go hang out with when the attachment wanting to have a good time is operating? Yeah, who do we hang out with? Whoever, And we talked about intoxicants. I mean, I would say our friends who do intoxicants are some of the big people we hang out with when we want to go have a good time, isn't it? Yeah? Or the people who, who knows what? People who are building identities, depending on what kind of identity you want to build. Yeah, if you want to build one of, I'm the big corporate leader, you go hang out with corporate leaders or corporate leader wannabes. If you want to make an identity of, I'm a social activist, you go hang out with those people. We all kind of create all these social identities out of ourselves, for ourselves. So we go hang out with those people and try and be like them and try and create those identities. To feel that, we belong somewhere and, we're in some kind of scene or another. Yeah. And yet, are those necessarily the best situations for us to be in? Yeah, I mean, just think about it. Think about the people you hang out with, whether it's your corporate leader friends or your, I don't know, all the different identities we have, all those friends. Are those people really the people, is the ambience around those people really the ambience and the environment that's best suited for nourishing the part of ourselves that we treasure and respect? What do you think? Are you getting what I'm saying? You're just kind of looking at me like, oh, what's this lady saying anyway? Yeah? But, I think this is one reason why people go to live in monasteries, is because they want to live with people who are doing a certain thing, who respect that part of themselves also. Yeah? If you're with your drinking and drugging friends, they respect the part of you that can provide drugs. They can respect the part of you that can, go get liquor even when you're underage. They respect the part of you that can smoke or drink a lot or snort or shoot a lot. And, but is that the part of you that you want people to respect? Yeah? So, to really ask ourselves that, and then see what are good environments for us to be in. Hmm? You're all kind of looking really strange this morning.
What I was thinking is, you were talking about, with whom you hang out, and we choose to come into the monastery, even our guests. So maybe I had the feeling, why is she talking like this with us now here? To remind us, in case we would go and leave this place, and then plan to think with whom we hang out. For me, it was strange to hear then on the perspective when I think of others, maybe, with whom do they hang out and how do they influence themselves?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was maybe looking strange.
Okay. Because you didn't think I was talking to you.
Really, actually.
Okay, well, it's, sometimes we hear things and we think, oh, they're not talking to me. I'm beyond that. I'm beyond my drinking and drugging days. Yeah, I'm beyond my hanging out in bars and flirting with guys days. I'm beyond my, whatever it was you did before. But, the seeds of those things are still in our mind. Yeah, and sometimes, when you do retreat, these seeds pop up. You're sitting there, you did retreat last winter, you're sitting there doing retreat and trying to focus on Chenrezig Vajrasattva, your breath, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, you're rerunning songs from when you were a teenager in your mind. It's like, where in the world did that come from? Yeah? Like, how did that get in my mind? I wasn't thinking about that. And then you start going down memory lane. Yeah, ask Sofa about this. She talks about it a lot, And then, she talks about, the song lyric comes up. And then I'm thinking about the time I was traveling here and they were playing that song and I was with this person. And after we went to that place, then we went here and we did this and we did that. And, there we are. Yeah? And maybe it'd be so nice. I had such a good time. Yeah? I remember being in Germany at that campsite. That's actually where I became a vegetarian, in Germany. I cut into one of those blood sausages. That did it for me. Outside of that campsite was really nice. We went here, we went there, And so all those seeds just come back, and our mind is, maybe I should go do that again. That was so nice. I love traveling. I traveled for a year and a half all over the place. That was really cool. I learned so much about life. I brought back so many far-out souvenirs. Then all my friends came into my flat and said, oh, wow, look at you. You've been all over the world. And I could say, oh, yes, I have been. And you do a whole meditation session. Maybe I should go back. I could spread Dharma, I remember when I was in Afghanistan, 1973, I could go back and start a Buddhist center there. That would be really repaying the kindness of the people. Did you get what I mean? Is anybody else understanding what I'm meaning? Oh, you're understanding. That's good. You understand? Okay.
I think, when you were in a monastery, sure, but when you're in a 3-month retreat and you're trying to cultivate realizations and understandings of the Dharma, and you spend all your time traveling, all the places you've been, and all the people you've met, we're not going physically out there, but we're still squandering that time. We're still, not cultivating the qualities we want. We're just cultivating the attachment to those things of the past.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much far away from the actual great scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking about why people just rode,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, this cannot apply to us, it's just a different thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And I go back to something else, but there's something else pulling us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Some other identity we used to have that, you know, comes up and seems, you know, I'd like to get into that scene now. Okay, but also for those of you who aren't ordained and who are leaving, to really think well about what environments you're putting yourself in, because that makes a huge difference, you know, in terms of what you become and what happens to you. Hmm? I'll tell you my Teresa story to emphasize the point. My very first Dharma course in Lake Arrowhead, actually, California, I was sitting next to somebody named Teresa. She was about my age. She had been to Copan before, so she was kind of my senior and, you know, could fill me in on some things, and we got along quite well. And so I decided to go to Copan for the meditation course that autumn, and Teresa was going too. And so she was saying, well, I'll meet you in Copan, and then before the course starts, we can go down to Freak Street and go have some chocolate cake together. So I got to Copan early before the course. I arrived in Copan with my, I remember this so well, this brightly colored skirt made from Indian fabric, long skirt, like bright colors, and, you know, embroidered peasant blouse, and long hair down to here. I just had my ears pierced, so I had big earrings and all this hair. And, you know, and I got... And I got to Copan, and I'm waiting for Teresa to come, you know, and Teresa doesn't come. And the course starts, and my long hair. And the course starts, and there's no Teresa. And the course ends, and there's no Teresa. And so somebody wrote to her family and said, you know, what happened? This was in the days before email. And we got a reply back that Teresa had gone to Bangkok, you know, because she was transiting through Bangkok en route to Nepal. And she stopped for a few days, and she went to a party, and she met some people, and there was one guy there, and you know, and he asked her out to lunch the next day, and she went to lunch with him, and then they found her body in one of the Bangkok canals. And this guy was somebody from, I think he was French, who was a serial killer and had killed several other people, and he had poisoned her. You know, so there she was en route to her Dharma class, you know, and just going out for a good time, hanging out with the people you always hang out with, you know, at a party and dancing and this and that. And then, doing, you know, met this guy, and that karma ripened, and that's it. Her precious human life was finito. Yeah, so it was a really big shock for me, really big shock. But, you know, this is an example of, you know, hanging out with kind of your old group, and then look what happened. Yeah. So, anyway, just something to think about. So I wanted to keep going in this. Yeah. So the Buddha was, this is from a a section of the connected discourses that are the connected discourses with Kassapa. So the Buddha's praising Kassapa a lot during this one. Okay, but here the Buddha is saying that to the Sangha, you should approach families like the moon, drawing back the body and mind, always acting like newcomers, without impudence towards families. Just as a man looking down an old well, a precipice, or a steep river bank would draw back the body and mind, so too because should you approach families. Okay, so we talked before about how drawing back doesn't mean you become cold and aloof and, don't relate to people at all. But it means that you're aware of being a monastic and aware of the difference in lifestyle that you have consciously chosen, how that lifestyle is different from the lifestyle of lay people. You're aware of your precepts that are going to help you to protect your virtuous mind and create a virtuous mind. And so therefore, when you approach a situation with lay people, you don't just jump in wholeheartedly and go back to your old identity and do what you were doing before, but you pull back in the sense of maintaining your mindfulness about your precepts, your values, your principles. Okay, and so really maintaining that strong in your mind, so you know that what is important to you. Okay, when they say looking down an old well, a precipice, or a steep riverbank, you get a sense that there's some danger there. Yeah, well, the danger here is not that there's something wrong or bad about the world or lay people, but just knowing that our mind gets completely uncontrolled in those environments. Yeah, that we ordinary beings, when we're just set loose in certain environments, our mind just gets out of control. And by out of control, I mean attachment fills our mind. We may not see attachment filling our mind as being out of control. We think it's happiness. But when you have a Dharma aspiration, then attachment filling your mind is being out of control. Okay? Or we may go into situations where we get involved in other people's stories and business, and anger and hatred fill our mind. Yeah? And our mind's out of control with that. Or we're out of control because we're competing with somebody, or we're jealous of somebody, or we're arrogant. Okay? So here it's a thing of realizing that those mental states make us miserable, and we don't want to allow our mind to get involved in those mental states. So we pull back from the objects and the situations that can trigger those mental states. Okay? So again, it doesn't mean that other people are bad or negative or anything like that. It just means we want to go this direction, and that triggers all of our old habits. Okay? Are you understanding this part? Yeah? Okay. So it's like if you weigh 300 pounds and you want to lose weight, do you go meet your friends at 31 Flavors? Is that wise? No, it's not. If you want to lose weight, you don't go meet your friends at 31 Flavors, because you know that attachment's just going to well up, and you're going to, sit there and eat ice cream all afternoon. And then you're going to go home and you're going to feel rotten physically and mentally, and, your cholesterol is going to get higher and the whole 9 yards. Okay? So you don't put yourself in that kind of environment, because you know that your mind gets uncontrolled. Okay? So, yeah. So it's like that with you know, we have to really look at what environments water the seeds of our goodness and what environments water the seeds of our afflictions. Okay? And again, it's not blaming the outside situation. It's not saying they made me. It's owning our responsibility. I get uncontrolled. Okay? And so seeing, you know, that it's our own attachment and anger that is our problem. You know, that is our enemy, not anybody else. Okay? So, Buddha continues, Bhikkhus, Kassapa approaches family like the moon, drawing back the body and mind, always acting like a newcomer without impudence towards families. What do you think, bhikkhus? What kind of bhikkhu is worthy to approach families? So acting like a newcomer, we talked about drawing back the body and mind. Acting like a newcomer. What does a newcomer act like? Yeah. A newcomer is well behaved. A newcomer is polite. Yeah? Isn't it? Yeah? When you're new in a situation, you're looking around and observing things. You're polite. You're considerate. You know, you don't barge in and say, here I am, I'm going to run the show. I want this, I want that. But, you know, you're quiet, you're respectful.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Otherwise, you're never going to be welcome back there again. Yeah. And so especially in this kind of situation, you know, if monastics are going on Pindapat, or if they've been invited to somebody's home to eat, then if they're poorly behaved, the people, they're not going to invite the Sangha back. It's like, who needs to offer lunch to these people? You know, they're obnoxious number one. So, yeah, but newcomers are polite, yeah. And then without impudence towards families, again, without being rude, without being inconsiderate, without being demanding. Okay? So sometimes, you know, when we travel, either because we're going en route to somewhere, we may stay at a layperson's family, or we may visit our parents and stay at their house, or when I travel for teachings, very often I'm housed at somebody's house. And so to, you know, without impudence, in other words, being polite and considerate of the people where we're staying. Now, if people invite us even out, you know, to a restaurant to eat, or any kind of situation, or people come here and they bring the food here and they come to visit us, yeah, to be polite and considerate and not demanding and not harsh, yeah, and not so loud that everybody turns around and looks at you, yeah. Sometimes you go to gatherings where His Holiness is teaching, and you know that's the place where you meet all your old Dharma friends that you haven't seen in so many years, and it's so tempting. You, hi! I haven't seen you in 20 years. It's so good to see you. You know, and you know you're so happy, and they're so happy, and everybody around you looks and goes, okay, that's the way the Sangha acts, yeah. So, you know, we have to restrain ourselves in our exuberance, yeah. And we're happy to see somebody, and you know, we're delighted to see them, and we smile, but we don't have to throw our arms around them and embrace for however long and scream with glee and laugh hysterically and okay, we don't have to do any of that. Yeah, we can, you know, we still feel our happiness and all, but we have a certain kind of decorum. that's not artificial. At first you may feel like, oh, this is so artificial, It's like I can't do all these things I used to do. But, you've heard some of the Sangha here comment on when the Chinese bhikshunis come, and how they began to see why you need 4 or more fully ordained people to have a Sangha. Because when there's that many people, you really see how people, that many monastics, you really see how they relate to each other. And I think all of you have been very impressed. You see how they come, and they're polite and they're kind. They're very efficient. They get everything done. Yeah, and they're wonderful people and friendly, yeah, but they're not kind of all over the place. So, so it gives what Lama Yeshe would call a good visualization. Yeah, he would tell us, you need to give people a good visualization. Yeah. So it's not like we're trying to pretend to be something we aren't. We're trying to train our mind. If we're deliberately trying to give people a visualization, then we're always like, are you looking at me, how holy I look? And that's not going to work at all. But, we have to really sincerely be trying to train our mind.
What about when you visit family members and you're monastic and you have to have it maybe to hug them and they have to have it to hug you? Okay, so hugging family members. Yeah, I hug my dad. I hug my brother. It's not big hugs, but, I do that. But, and my nephew, although he's getting to a stage now where, maybe, he's not so interested in hugging his aunt so much. Yeah. So, but, it's just friendly hugs with, your hand on somebody's shoulder. It's not big bear hugs. It does happen, though, that sometimes people will come to the monastery. People will come to the monastery, and we're greeting them, and before we know it, their arm is around us. Yeah, that happens. And so it's a funny kind of situation. Yeah, that used to happen with Pat sometimes. And so he would put his arm, he would do something just very gently, so I would maybe put my hand on his shoulder, that kind of thing. But usually what is good to do in those situations is as you meet somebody, you extend your hand to shake it. In the Theravada tradition, they don't do that. They do this, okay? But for people who aren't Buddhist in our society, if you go and meet somebody and you go like this, and they're standing with their hand out, they feel really kind of embarrassed. Yeah. So I tend to shake hands. You shake and then that's it, finished. Okay. Okay. So I wrote, then the monks replied to the Buddha, Venerable Sir, our teachings are rooted in the Blessed One, guided by the Blessed One, take recourse in the Blessed One. It would be good if the Blessed One would clear up the meaning of this statement. Having heard it from him, the bhikkhus will remember it. And then the Blessed One. I think the word they're translating as Blessed One is Bhagawan. Yeah. That's what we, in our prayers, is endowed transcendent destroyer. That, because endowed with good qualities, transcendent of samsara, destroyer of the afflictions. Okay, so the Buddha waved his hand in space and said, Bhikkhus, just as this hand does not get caught in space, is not held fast by it, is not bound by it, so when a bhikkhu approaches families, his mind does not get caught, held fast, and bound amidst families, thinking, and then it has what he may think. But I want to just pause here, okay, about
when we approach families and our mind getting caught or held fast or bound amidst families. So the Buddha's describing one way below, but I want to talk about another way that we get bound with families, and especially with our own family, okay? So, or not just our own family, even with the lay people who come to the Abbey. When people come and they tell us their problems, or our family tells us all the latest gossip in the family, or we hear about what's going on in the Dharma Center here and the Dharma Center there between the lay people on the board and the lay people here and that and this. And when we hear basically gossip about what other people are doing, our mind can get really, really trapped in all of that. And it may be people talking about what other people are doing. It may be people even just using us as a safe place to vent their frustration or their unhappiness about how things are going in the family or how things are going in their office or whatever it is. But we get hooked. Yeah, we get hooked. And we want to fix their problems, and we get involved in their problems, and we want to know, we ask them questions, and we want to know all the details about the situation that they're involved in, and how do you feel, and how do you really feel, and why do you feel like that, and what's going on with the other one, how do they feel, this and that, and then, well, you should do this, and they should do that, and try this, and, we're fixing their problems and giving them advice all over the place, and then, okay, last time I saw you, this was going on, what's happening now, is it better, is it worse, how are the people doing, is this brother and that sister, are they still fighting, are they still, how was the family dinner, how was this, that, and you get completely involved in lay people's stuff. Yeah? You know how it is? Yeah? And just, even if you're not a Sangha, you know how with your friends you get totally involved in their stuff. And you feel like, well, I have to take care of all these people. And, and I need to fix their problems, and I need to make sure they're happy, and this person's unhappy, and I better go and, keep more touching with them and try and make them happy, and that person is, distraught about this, and I better, try and find them a new job so that they don't feel so bad about getting laid off, and we just get completely immersed in other people's lives. Yeah? And sometimes, as a Buddhist, we even do it with the thing of, I'm being compassionate. Yeah, I'm so compassionate, subtext, that I'm going to fix your problem. Yeah, I'm so compassionate, subtext, that I'm going to know everything that's going on in your life. Yeah, or almost everything. Yeah, and so we get completely involved in this way. And then, of course, when we sit down to meditate, what's coming in our mind? Everything that we just heard about this person and that person. Then we worry about people. Oh, I just talked to my sister and she's saying this, she's having this kind of problem with so-and-so, and that's really terrible. And, maybe I should, you're meditating. And maybe I know this person she's having a problem with. Maybe I should say something to him, and, or maybe I should arrange for them to meet, or, And our whole mind is completely involved in other people's lives in the name of compassion. Yeah. That is getting caught, held fast, and bound amidst families. That's it. Okay? And it's really hard, at the beginning especially, because there's two things. One is we're fond of all these people. So from our side, we want it. Also, they're fond of us. So from their side, they want us to relate to them in the same way we used to relate to them before. You know? You getting what I'm saying? Yeah, they want us to relate to them the same way we related to them before. And from our side, we have a habit of doing that. Yeah, and it feels so uncomfortable. So, well, I'm a member of this family. I should jump into the swimming pool with all the other people playing water polo. And, you know. But it's, you know, how does a Sangha behave? We don't do that. We don't jump in. We don't get caught and bound and trapped. Yeah, we step back. If somebody is angry, we talk with them about anger and the antidotes to anger. We don't talk with them about what to do in the situation and how to fix the situation and is so-and-so doing this and that and the other thing. Okay, so we keep the conversation just about Dharma. Yeah, and we don't go meddling in their business. Yeah, because otherwise we get totally caught up in it. Yeah. One of the precepts that monastics have is not to be a matchmaker. Okay, so there's a few reasons for this, obviously. You know, one reason being that if you're a matchmaker, it brings you back into, well, gee, I wonder if somebody could make a match for me too, you know, and so your mind starts fantasizing about romantic relationships. But another reason Venerable Wu Yin explained for not doing matchmaking is that if you're a matchmaker, how many relationships turn out good? Yeah? You fix people up, how many of them really live happily ever after? Who are they going to blame for fixing them up when they don't get along? Yeah? So this is ancient India where the matchmaker really was a valued person in the community. And, they'll blame the matchmaker. Well, in the same way, if we start getting involved in people's lives and giving them advice on this and that, and our advice doesn't work, yeah, then they're going to blame us. And, that's going to wind up getting kind of weird because they lose faith in the Dharma, they lose faith in the Sangha, and it's basically because we overstepped what's appropriate. What's appropriate is to help people with their emotional problems. What's not appropriate is to fix their external problems and to be so involved in how everybody is that, our minds just, I gotta know. I mean, when I meet people come to visit here, I always ask about their family. How's this one doing? How's that one doing? As if their family members have been up here and I know them, I always ask, because that's a polite thing to do, and it makes those people feel good, and they know that we care about them and care about their family, and I listen and I nod, and that's fine. But I don't get involved in it all. Yeah. And, even in my own family, my sister called a few days ago. I heard an earful. I'm not getting involved. Yeah, that's not the way to be of benefit. Okay, so, yeah. Holding that. Okay. So then the Buddha goes on, when, here he's talking about how the Sangha, when a bhikkhu approaches families, his mind does not get caught, held fast and bound amidst families, thinking, may those desiring gains acquire gains, may those desiring merit make merit. He is elated and happy over the gains of others as he is over his own gains. Such a bhikkhu is worthy to approach families. Okay, I actually read it with the wrong intonation here. Sorry, because there's two ways to read this. as it comes up later. Okay, so let me backtrack, okay. So he goes thinking, may those desiring gains acquire gains, may those desiring merits make merits, and he is as elated and happy over the gains of others as he is over his own gains. Okay, so this bhikkhu, who is approaching families, he rejoices at families' prosperity, but he's not clinging to have any of it for himself and not coveting it for himself. Okay? He recognizes that people can create merit by being generous, but he's not sitting there thinking, may they be generous to me? May they give a lot to me? Yeah? So this kind of monk sees, understands how karma works, and rejoices at others' wealth and prosperity, rejoices when they make merit, but doesn't put themselves in the middle of it. Okay? As we're going to see, and this particular monk rejoices whether somebody else gets the offering or whether they get the offering. Okay. As we'll see later on, somebody who is not worthy to approach the families, when they approach the families, it's like, you create a lot of merit when you give to the Sangha. And I'm a much better recipient than these other people are. You should definitely give to me. Or my group is much better. We're much holier than those other people. You should definitely give to us. And the more you give to us, the more merit you create. Okay? So somebody with that kind of attitude is not somebody who should approach families, because their attitude isn't proper. Yeah, the attitude is greed, isn't it? It's greed. And using the Dharma to coerce people. Oh, you will gain so much merit. If you give and you give, you get so much merit. But they're not saying that out of, really wanting the other person to create merit, and because, they really see the value in generosity. They're saying that to cajole somebody into giving to them. Okay? So that is not how we should be. How we should be is somebody who understands karma, who understands they have wealth because they created the karma. Whoever they give it to created the karma to receive it. So if they give it to somebody else, that's the person who created the karma to receive their offering. If they don't give it to me, that's completely okay. They created merit by giving to the other person. Yeah, if they give to me, fine, I accept, and I use it in a wise way, and I dedicate and pray for them. But I'm not, sitting there going, oh, they gave to me, I must be really special. I'm a better monastic than that guy because they didn't give to him. Or I'm going to go out and buy myself a new one of these. Yeah, go down to Macy's. I think they have a sale on them, on Donkas this week. Okay? So then the Buddha repeats, bhikkhus, when Kassapa approaches families, his mind does not get caught, held fast, or bound amidst families, thinking, may those desiring gain acquire gain. May those desiring merits make merit. He is as elated and happy over the gains of others as he is over his own gains. And then he continues, what do you think, bhikkhus? How is a bhikkhu's teaching of the Dharma impure, and how is his teaching of the Dharma pure? And then this same interchange where the bhikkhus are asking the Buddha for advice. Okay, and then the Buddha replies, a bhikkhu teaches the Dharma to others with the thought, oh, may they listen to the Dharma from me. Having listened, may they gain confidence in the Dharma. Being confident, may they show their confidence to me. such a bhikkhu's teaching of the Dharma is impure. So let me read that different. So how the person is saying, oh, may they listen to the Dharma from me. Having listened, may they gain confidence in the Dharma. Being confident, may they show their confidence to me. The Dana bowl is right over there. The katas and the offering envelopes are right over there. And I'm here. Okay? So, such a person, such a bhikkhu's teaching of the Dharma is impure. So why is it impure?
Greed.
Greed. But doesn't the monk need something to live on? Shouldn't he feel right, kind of wanting to receive something from somebody? I mean, after all, he needs to eat.
Shouldn't be his motivation to teach, but getting some material possessions.
You don't think so? Just, I mean, fair exchange. I give you the Dharma, you give me food. I have that in mind when I go and teach you. It's just kind of fair exchange. I mean, we have to be practical in this world, in the business world, don't we?
So you wouldn't teach if he or she wouldn't give you something.
No, that just shows that they're ungrateful and they don't appreciate the Dharma. Why should I bother with those people? You know, they don't understand Buddhism. They don't understand how you treat monastics. They don't give offerings. Why should I go there?
Doesn't seem to be a compassionate motivation for the teaching.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, I'm being real compassionate. I'm giving them the chance to hear the perfectly pure Dharma from my mouth, and I'm giving them the opportunity to create merit.
You're not the one that creates that. That's what you.
Oh, darn. Yeah?
Also, the bhikkhu isn't giving credit to the one who's taught the Dharma in the first place. It sounds like,
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not giving the right credit to the right person.
Yeah. It's not my teachings. It has nothing to do with me. Yeah. Okay. But it's very, very easy for this kind of mind to come. It's very easy for this kind of mind to come. Yeah. It comes when, you no, I mean, there's certain times, when was it? It must have been like 96 or something. So I went on a tour of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet republics for six weeks teaching. And and I got to Moscow, and they were supposed to, they organized teaching, but there were like 8 people there. And I felt I came all the way from the U.S., paying for my own international ticket, out of compassion for you people, and there's 8 of you here. I can't remember. They probably gave some dana. That wasn't the issue there. But it was like, gee, I've done so much. And then the organizers don't even appreciate it. Yeah, it's easy for that mind to come. It's easy for that mind. Yeah? Yeah, one time I taught at a temple in Penang, quite a wealthy temple. It's the only time, well, I don't know, maybe not, but there were no offerings at all. And I was like, my mind was going, but they're a rich temple. What's the story? Did they just forget? This is customary. They should know they're Buddhist. Yeah, very easy for this kind of mind to come up. Yeah, this is true confession. Yeah, so, to really feel, that I'm going just out of compassion. Whatever people give is what they give. If they don't give, that's completely okay. You know, you really need to work with your mind. Huh?
Also, Venerable, I think that just shows how difficult it is to be a monastic living alone. Because in that situation, I don't know, I'd have to be superhuman to not think the other way, because you are on your own. I know, you're relying on the kindness of others.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah, that is true. When you're a lone monastic, you're relying on people more for your livelihood. When you live in a community, but it's the same thing. It could be, you know, my community needs money. Or what you find in the Tibetan monasteries, actually, there's a lot of expectation on certain monks to go out and raise money and to bring money back to the monastery. You know? And there's a huge social pressure to do that. And the more benefactors and money you bring to the monastery, the more the monks really like you. So it's actually, it sounds very idyllic here, but it's actually not so easy to have a perfectly pure mind about it. Yeah? Yeah.
I also think two other complications. One, of course, is that our own cultural system is that we're so used to working for pay, that to even get the seed of that thought out of our mind, offering the Dharma is its own process. But then also the tricky part of being in the position of educating the non-Buddhists or the burgeoning Buddhists that are coming. This is what's going on in my mind here a lot, is how we do that purely and cleanly.
Yeah.
Which is also our job, I think, but to do it with a mind that's not attached then to any kind of outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there is a difference. If you're in a society, in a country where people are Buddhist, then they have some knowledge of how to act. In the West, people have no idea. You know, and then, you know, people are so used to just, you know, you have to pay. And if nobody charges, then, you know, that's it. Yeah, you don't have to give anything. And so to really educate people about the Sangha and the role of the Sangha and how things work, it's part of our responsibility. But it's also quite delicate because it's very easy to appear as, you know, we're educating you so that you can give to us. And it's very easy for our own mind to get into, we're educating you so you can give to us. Yeah, but on the other hand, we do have to educate people because otherwise they miss out on a lot of opportunities. And then eventually, I mean, if the lay people don't support the Sangha by donations, then eventually people are going to charge. And you see a lot of lay Dharma centers do charge. You know, they charge for in the West for different things because they say if we don't charge, people don't give anything. I disagree with that. I think you need to educate people and so on. But I'm just telling you what a number of people say and why they say, oh, you need to charge. That's it. Yeah, and we need to make a profit, and we have expenses, you know. They say, well, it's not like at the time of the Buddha where, you know, the Sangha just wandered or the king offered them a place to live and paid for the expenses. Now we rent the house, we have to, you know, pay for the rent, or we have to pay for the mortgage for the Dharma Center. The Dharma Center's for all these people who come, and they need to contribute to it, else how are we going to have the finances to run the Dharma Center? Yeah, so you can understand their argument. I don't agree, you know, and my experience has often been in traveling that the Dharma centers that worry the most about money and say we don't have enough money and that's why we have to charge are the Dharma centers who also give very little dana to the speakers they invite. And to me, it seems like there's a relationship there. When you're, you know, because generosity is the cause of wealth. So when you're generous, you receive. So I just find it interesting. And I think in the West now, it's even more difficult now that there's lay Dharma teachers. Yeah, because with monastics, if you give dana to a monastic, you know it's going back to the monastery and getting used for the other monastics. You know, when you give dana to a lay teacher, it could be going to get, you know, pay for summer camp for the kids, to get the kids Nike shoes, to get them a video game, to, you know, spend money on, you know, going to see the Rising Knight or the Fallen Knight or whatever it was. That movie? Dark Knight. Okay. You know, so that's how your dana is getting used, is to go see the Dark Knight. Yeah. So to me, it brings up a lot of questions of, you know, what's the karma involved in this if you're a lay Dharma teacher, accepting dana and then using it for the mundane activities of your family, so your family can live a middle-class life. And then it seems to be quite natural that lay Dharma teachers will then start to select, even if they don't charge, which places give a lot of dana and which places don't give very much dana. Yeah, because they have a family to feed. It's difficult. Yeah.
Then the other situation, I think, also raises a question for me that if you are requesting dana or accepting dana to support yourself, does that then create a, I don't know what to call it, but I just want to say karmic responsibility, even though that may not be the right term.
No, that's good.
Karmic responsibility to be virtuous or to, in some way, practice virtue, because then you're getting money, you're basically misrepresenting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question is, if you accept money for teaching the Dharma, and the money is given by people with faith, or even you're not teaching the Dharma, and just because you're a Sangha member and people give offerings to you because they have faith in the Sangha, do you have some sort of responsibility that's involved with karma to live in a virtuous way? You bet. You have a huge responsibility. Yeah, huge, huge. And the Buddha said that if you don't keep your precepts well, yet you're accepting money from the faithful, that when you're eating their food, you might as well be drinking hot molten iron. Because you're going to wind up in the hell realm from, you know, taking offerings from the faithful without fulfilling one's own responsibility. Yeah, so it's not that we have to be perfect, but we have to at least be trying and not be totally reckless. And, you know, I mean, especially if somebody gives you money as a Sangha member because they have faith in the Sangha, you have to, you know, what am I spending that money on? Yeah, if I told this person I was spending money on this, would they agree on how I was spending it? You know, well, if it's for medicine or health reasons or clothes or shelter, sure. You know, if it's to go and see the Dark Knight, you know, how would they feel about that? Yeah. If it was to go on a holiday and lay on the beach, yeah, how would benefactors feel about that? So there's a huge responsibility when you accept money.
A related question, which is pretty troubling me, trying to make plans for my future, and that is, because I have a pension after I retire, and so on the one hand, I'll be supported by the community, and on the other hand, I'll be having a pension from the government from my job. So then the question is, how does one uses that money in a way that is not conflicting with being supported by the community?
Okay, so you're saying if you ordain, the community supports you, but because you've worked for a number of years, you'll receive a pension. So how do you use that pension in a way that's not conflicting? You have the option of offering the money to the community. Yeah? Yeah. and then the community supports you. Or you keep some money aside for health concerns or whatever, but whatever you don't need, then you offer to the community, or you give as offerings in some other way that creates virtue. Yeah, but at least in our community, we want people to be as equal as possible. You know, this is something that's quite difficult in the Tibetan tradition in general, is that they expect monastics, just Western monastics, to support themselves. So you have rich monastics, you have poor monastics. And there's no communities for people to live in where they're supported. So that's one reason for having the Abbey here, and people are supported here. We aren't, able to support every person's health costs at this point. Yeah, so it's good if people have some savings for emergencies, but if somebody doesn't have savings, then we help them out. Yeah, but then if you have extra that you don't need for any reason, then you can give to the community, or you can give to your teachers or whoever. Yeah. Does that answer your question okay? Yeah. Okay. Maybe we should. Do people have other causes or comments? Yeah.
You spoke about Dharma centers, and do you have any solution in mind then to another way, like donations? I mean, I haven't seen an example where a Dharma center could run in this way on the donations.
Mm-hmm.
Because also of the fact that most of them are lay teachers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, so you're asking how could a Dharma center run just by donations? When I was in Seattle, Dharma Friendship Foundation, the center where I was at, ran purely on donations. They paid for the rent of the center, and they also paid for my rent and all my expenses, and it was done completely on donations. It involves a process of education. You really have to educate people. Not only like, you got to give, otherwise we can't do this, but educate people that giving is part of our practice, because giving creates merit. And we all want to create merit. We all need to create merit. And so, we're not talking about giving just because we need and if you want this Dharma center to exist, well, you better put the bucks down. It's not that. It's, like if you want to have a successful Dharma practice, you need to create merit. And one way you create merit is by making offerings. So, I think if you educate people, yeah. And then if Dharma centers are careful about how they spend the money, too. Yeah, I think, there's a big responsibility in spending it well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have a question about when we were talking about relating to families, and I wondered if you had noticed in the kind of this emerging Western monasticism, if there's anything that Western monastics in particular are facing in terms of relationships with their families, or any kinds of different things that you're seeing.
Okay, so things that I'm seeing about Western monastics in relationship to their family. Well, as I was saying yesterday, or a few days ago, that I've seen that with my friends who are supported by their families, my monastic friends whose family gives them the money to live, that then the family definitely has an expectation that they'll come back, for dinner, and they'll go on family vacations. The family's going on a cruise, so we want you to come. Seriously. Yeah, the family's going here and there, we want you to come, and then they feel quite obliged. And that's, again, because it's not a Buddhist culture. I think, people who grow up in a Buddhist society, their parents would kind of realize that maybe that's not so appropriate. Or even if the parents don't realize it, the temple makes it quite evident in Asia that that's not appropriate behavior, or expectation for the parents. Another thing I've seen is with aging parents, that Sangha sometimes faces this dilemma of, well, what do I do with aging, parents or sick parents, and do I go back and help them? Do I not? Are there other siblings who can help out? There's that kind of condition. And I think what differentiates that from ancient times is that people live longer now. And I was talking to somebody recently, and they were saying, like now, when people are old, they have a whole cluster of things wrong with them. It used to be, as you aged, you would get some kind of disease, and then you died from that disease because there wasn't any medicine. Now there's medicine to fix that disease, or at least kind of, so you can control that disease. But then another part of your body breaks down and you get another ailment or injury. Then you have to fix that one, so you kind of fix that one too, and then another part of the body breaks down. So that people, when they're old, they have a whole range of things that don't work in their body. And this is what comes with extended lifespan now. Yeah, that they didn't have at the time of the Buddha. So, it's difficult. Yeah, especially in the U.S. where they're cutting the costs, There's threat to Medicare and Medicaid, and, people's pension plan crashed and this kind of stuff. But there's also, we have the expectation in America that we should get the most medical treatment that is available, even if we don't really need it. Yeah, there's this kind of, I'm hearing a lot of people say now that the doctors are running tests just out of fear of having a lawsuit. Yeah, so they run all these preventative tests, and then of course a test shows a little something wrong here, and then you have to fix that, but then that medicine produces side effects, and you have to take another medicine to produce that. So you wind up with medical care that's like really, really elaborate, that's maybe not appropriate. I was reading one article, somebody was writing about how that happened to them. So I think it also involves, to really think, okay, what do I need to go to the doctor for and what I don't? I'm not saying don't go to doctors, but let's make sure that we get the treatment that we do need, but we don't get so worried about our health that at the slightest little thing wrong, we're in there and gobbling pills and having gazillions of tests done. Is this sounding reasonable? Because often people, then I'll hear after, well, you said we shouldn't go to doctors. I'm not saying that, It's amazing what people hear sometimes in Dharma teachings. What they come up to me after, so you said, da-da-da. No, I didn't. But anyway, and I think also as a Sangha member, really thinking about what kind of circumstances do we want to have when we die? Do we want to be in the hospital with, first of all, if you get a terminal disease, do you want to buy an extra month or two by having treatment that decreases the quality of your life? And I think people need to think about that. Yeah, and what kind of situation, if you have any control over when you die, what kind of situation do you want to be in? Yeah, and so to really make plans for that and have a living will, talking about what we want done, what kind of medical care, the extent of the medical care we want, so that, it's something reasonable for ourselves. Because otherwise, they put you in the hospital, and my mom was dying, they ran every test, so many tests, and it's clear this poor lady's dying. And they just ran one test after the other until she said, please leave me alone. So, because that's the way our medical system and people's expectations are. So to really think about that, how we want that, and to make those kinds of, have those kinds of discussions with our parents too, what they want. Do you have anything to say, Venerable Jigme, about any of this?
Sounds all reasonable. The hard part of it is to train your mind so that when you're getting ill and dying, that you look at how you're grasping and what you're grasping after. And because I think everybody knows when they're dying if you open to that. I don't think it's such a big shock, especially if it's something, that you've had for a little bit. But people know when they're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And to have the courage to embrace that and then prepare for the journey instead of what can I do to distract from that or, cover it up or deny it's happening.
Mm.
When you do that, your death is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
other thing that would be kind of scary is that maybe some of the drugs that they're giving you at that moment really they confuse the mind. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of approaching death with a clear mind, your mind, you can't even focus because you have all these drugs in your system that are supposed to numb the pain and do this and do that. So that can be very scary.
Yeah, it can be. And some drugs, if you're in excruciating pain, a little bit may be helpful, but then some drugs cause you to hallucinate. And then what happens if you're dying while you're hallucinating? So, okay, so we'll pause here and continue later.